He's actually straw manning me.
No such thing as true in fact, James. That's pathetic. It's like, Mom, he started it.
He came after me saying...
I came after you, James, because you promulgated disinformation on the interwebs.
He's actually straw manning me.
No, I'm still not, James, and repeating yourself again will not change these facts. The real problem here, James, is that you lack the courage, the testicular fortitude to face me like a man and deal with this face to face.
I never said that eating a animal-based diet is going to independently moderate the pH.
Yes, you did, James. That's exactly what you said.
All I care about is what actually happens.
Me too. 12 parts per billion, James. That's the point here, isn't it?
If you consume a high animal protein diet, it will induce low-grade metabolic acidosis. And
false, James. The working range for urine is between 4 and 8 on the pH scale.
I said false because his beliefs are different than mine.
No, I said false because what you said was wrong, James.
The diet can absolutely affect the acid-base balance.
But it can't meaningfully, James, at all. 12 parts per billion. No. For goodness sake, every time you exercise at high intensity, the pH of your blood will swing 10 times more than it does with sulfur-containing amino acids. Why don't our kidneys explode every time we exercise, James? For goodness sake.
Now he's backpedaling.
No, I'm not backpedaling, not 1 inch, you lying toe rag.
Straw manning me.
I'm doing no such thing, James, you lying toe rag.
So, back to the point of the fact that essentially the main thing here is that...
Well, he's really struggling, isn't he? Really battling. I wonder why. Are we done yet, kids? Homeostatic mechanisms of the human body are perfectly competent to deal with 1 or 2 sulfur-containing amino acids, James.
Please explain how you can state on a human living for an entire lifespan that consuming a high acid-forming diet not offset by base has no meaningful harms.
If you want me to explain something to you, James, then have the courtesy of fronting up to me face to face and we'll have the discussion. Simple as that. And then maybe you'll earn your manhood back. Get your ego under control, son.
And I'm not going to live debate this guy because he's straw manning me all day.
No, because you know damn well that you have no hope whatsoever, James. And it's you that's doing the straw manning. That's why. You pathetic, desperate, cowardly little piece of shit. Front up. All right, thanks for joining me once again, where we're still dealing with James DiNicolantonio and his ridiculous, erroneous, arrogant nonsense. Let's hear it, James, and we'll put it right where it's wrong.
Okay, so if you guys aren't aware, there's been this kind of war going on between Bart Kay and myself.
I think everybody's aware, James. Anybody who's anybody?
Really, I'm not trying to engage in it.
Funny that you keep making videos responding to me then, James, if you're not, because it looks like you pretty well are trying to engage.
I'm trying to just put out the clinical evidence to support my notions.
There aren't any, James, unfortunately. That's the problem.
If you're not aware of how this actually started, I had put a video out on how diet affects acid-base balance.
It doesn't meaningfully, James. Those are the facts still.
And then Bart had put out a video basically saying that I'm incorrect.
Because you are, James.
So he is actually, if you look back and you go back to his video, he's actually straw manning me.
No such thing as true in fact, James. That's pathetic. It's desperate. It's childlike. It's like, Mom, he started it. Well, actually, you left out quite a bit of detail there, James, on how this all got going. Here's what it was. A comment was made on the platform formerly known as Twitter under James's post there about how he wants us to believe that eating sulfur-containing amino acids will somehow derange the acid-base balance in the human body, which it won't, still. The comment was made under his post there by one small yellow teddy bear. James, clearly not understanding who that teddy bear might be, has poked that bear, mouthed off, claimed authority and beat his chest. And unfortunately, that's backfired on him because that was the wrong bear to poke, wasn't it, James? And now, James is furiously backpedaling, trying to backfill and shore up his whatever it is. I don't know. At the end of the day, I mean, here's the thing about James. James is a research scientist with hundreds of publications to his name and tens of thousands of citations to his publications. He has an ego problem. He has an arrogance problem because he thinks that those publications make him the authority in a field, acid-base balance, where he clearly does not have command of even the most basic fundaments, as I've shown repeatedly already and will probably have to show again in this video to some degree. The thing that needs to come under control here, James, is your hubris, your arrogance, and your Dunning-Kruger. Take it on the chin, son. You've been absolutely eviscerated on this particular topic. You've got it wrong. Man up. Admit it. Instead of this ridiculous nonsense here. At the end of the day, the real problem here, James, is that you lack the courage, the testicular fortitude to face me like a man and deal with this face to face. So we just have to keep making these ridiculous backwards and forwards films. It's your choice. I'd sooner sit down face to face on camera live with you and we'll deal with this live. I wonder why you don't want to do that. Don't really.
Because he was saying that, well, his response to me was that diet cannot significantly affect blood pH or bicarbonate to any meaningful way.
I said meaningful, not significant. Significance refers to statistical significance. It's got nothing to do with clinical significance, whatever, James. The correct part of your statement there was that I said it does not make any meaningful difference to the pH. 12 parts per billion, even if that was a cause and effect artifact study, which it isn't, that's not meaningful, clinically or otherwise. Sorry about that. Those are still the facts. We need to move on from this. You have been defeated. You're done here. We're finished. You're clearly not, though, for some reason.
Because of the Stewart model, because they are dependent.
Yes, the concentration of hydronium ions, bicarbonate ions, and a bunch of other things as well in an aqueous solution are absolutely dependent variables, yes.
On other levers.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, it's not okay though, James, for you to be backpedaling, because all people need to do is go and look through the series of videos, all of which are still available on my channel, even the ones you deleted, James, off your channel, they're still available on my channel in full because I did a full response to your video. And people will see that you are backpedaling now because you realise that you're in the wrong, but you don't have the strength of character to actually front up, apologise to me and say, I was wrong and you were right. It's sad, James. It's pathetic.
I never used the word dependent or independent.
So what? The fact that you don't understand how pH is controlled in an aqueous solution, the fact that you have not correctly applied the dependent and independent label to the various variables involved in that system is not my problem. And neither does it absolve you of your fallacy in stating that eating sulfur-containing amino acids will meaningfully derange the pH of a human body in some way, because it still won't.
I never said that eating a animal-based diet is going to independently moderate the pH. I don't care.
Yes, you did, James. That's exactly what you said. Again, people can look back and view your video and see you using those exact words. You said eating foods containing sulfur-containing amino acids will derange the pH balance of your body in such a way as to cause an increase in the likelihood of pathology in the kidneys, which is false, James. It will do no such thing. Those are the facts. Still, that is what you said, quite clearly and unequivocally, and you were wrong, weren't you, James? Yes. What's next?
If it independently or dependently does.
This is a complete misdirect, James. Still.
All I care about is what actually happens.
Me too. 12 parts per billion, James. That's the point here, isn't it? That's what's been reported in a poorly controlled, poorly randomized, underpowered study of short tenure. Also in looking at long-term associations and prospective cohorts, looking at younger folks versus older folks. What you have failed to produce is any cause and effect evidence that any factor of diet of any kind is affecting the pH of the human body in any meaningful way. What you have supplied is evidence that it is not doing that. I don't see why you don't understand how it is that you've got this so arse about face, James. I really don't.
All I said is that if you consume a high animal protein diet not balanced with base, it will induce low-grade metabolic acidosis.
Which is false, James. Absolutely false. It will do no such thing. 12 parts per billion reported in an associative study. We're done with this. That is not a clinically meaningful change to the pH. The working range for urine, James, is between 4 and 8 on the pH scale. You're talking about the difference between 7.36 and 7.30 or something like that. 0.06 pH units is what you're talking about, James. 12 parts per billion with a B. We're done.
He said false because his beliefs are different than mine.
No, I said false because what you said was wrong, James. There is no meaningful derangement or problem in the pH balance of the human body as that relates to sulfur-containing amino acid intake.
However, I never utilize the words dependent or independent.
You've really got to stop repeating yourself, James, because it does not strengthen your argument, it weakens it. It shows us that you actually have no grist for your mill here. It was ridiculous the first time, it's still ridiculous now. Who cares what you said about dependence and independence? That's not the point. Those are the things that prove you wrong. The fact that you didn't even mention them doesn't mean that you weren't wrong. You were still wrong. 12 parts per billion, still.
First of all, of course, liberating protons and bicarbonate is going to be dependent on other things.
No, it's not. For a start, we're not really talking about liberation or absorption of protons. You clearly still don't understand what the equilibrium balance even is or how it's set up, which for a scientist of your proposed standing, James, I fail to comprehend how you don't get this. It's ridiculous. It's a farcical, childlike comprehension of what an equilibrium is.
Very clear, the kidneys and the respiratory system also affects pH.
Of course they do. They're part of the homeostatic mechanism.
That's not what we care about, nor what I said. I said that the diet can absolutely affect the acid-base balance.
But it can't meaningfully, James, at all. 12 parts per billion. Not clinically significant. False, James.
Whether it's dependent or independent doesn't matter.
It does matter, James. That's why it doesn't become deranged, because of the homeostatic mechanism. That's the explanation for why what you're saying is demonstrably, factually incorrect. Still,
he came after me saying...
I came after you, James, because you promulgated disinformation on the interwebs. That's what I do. That's my shtick. And you're a valid target, James, because of your standing, aren't you? Okay, good scalp. Well done, me.
Cannot, because it's dependent. Now he's backpedaling.
No, I'm not backpedaling, not 1 inch, you lying toe rag. Not 1 inch have I backpedaled on anything.
Strawmanning me.
I'm doing no such thing, James, you lying toe rag. You pathetic little boy.
And saying, well, it can, but it's just not to a significant degree.
And it isn't, still. And I never said it cannot change. You said that. Go back to your last video that I responded to over the last week and posted up yesterday, where you clearly stated the Stewart model and ergo me both claimed that the independent variables in the system were in fact constants, immovable. Nobody said that. I didn't, Stewart didn't, you said that, James. And you said it wrong, didn't you? Nobody's backpedaling here except you, son. What's next?
And it's also still dependent.
It is.
Okay, and I'm gonna explain why I believe that's incorrect. So
well, you've already tried to explain it, James, and you've got it wrong already. So what are you going to say this time that's going to be any different?
He's actually strawmanning me.
No, I'm still not, James, and repeating yourself again will not change these facts.
So, back to the point of the fact that essentially the main thing here is that...
Well, he's really struggling, isn't he? Really battling. I wonder why. Maybe it's because you've bitten off more than you can chew with me, sunshine.
What's clinically relevant and what's not?
Right, there you go. Okay, let's hear that.
Very difficult to ascertain, right?
Yes, it is. So your claim that eating sulfur-containing amino acids will cause a problem is not supported at all, is it, James? Thank you for the admission. Are we done yet, kids? Clearly not, because James is not even halfway through his latest effort here.
Is this a meaningful change or not? Well, first, if you actually look at acid-forming diets versus base-forming diets.
What is an acid-forming diet, James? Because you're suggesting an acid-forming diet is one containing a high level of sulfur-containing amino acids. You've also operationally defined acid as acidity, in fact, which is the concentration, effectively, of the hydronium ion in the solution. Go and look at your last video where that's the operational definition you imposed. Okay, well the answer is, there is a report, at least one report, of a derangement of a person's pH by 12 parts per billion on average, with a signal so small as to be within the signal-to-noise ratio in the first place anyway, James, and of no statistical meaning whatsoever. Did you do a power calculation? I did. Whoopsie daisy. Still. So you did claim that there was an issue here. So now you need to back that up.
There is a highly statistically significant difference.
Statistical significance has nothing whatever to do with clinical significance, James. And even a poor scientist understands that. So what you're basically doing right now is being purposefully at least disingenuous, if not downright dishonest with your viewers. It's disgraceful and it reflects very poorly on you, son.
Difference in even blood pH.
False.
Now, I've made it very clear interstitial fluid becomes acidic before blood because blood has many buffers for base. It has hemoglobin, it has albumin that can bind the hydrogen ions, and basically...
No, James, in fact, the things you're talking about there, the globulins and all of that kind of stuff, other weakly dissociated acid anions, etc., they all come under the thing called the ATOT minus. The higher the level of ATOT minus, the higher the level of acidity. Actually, if you understand the Stewart model, which you still clearly don't, it's not a buffer for protons. It is what draws protons out of the solution, in fact. So mechanistically, you've got this totally arse-about face. Still.
Mask low-grade metabolic acidosis in the interstitial fluid. So
metabolic acidosis is determined by the pH. It's not masked. It is what it is. You measure a person's pH in any given fluid pool and you get a number. You defined acidity as the hydronium ion concentration, James. You did that, buffoon.
we know the interstitial fluid becomes acidic first because not only from the limited capacity of the interstitial fluid to handle acid loads, but also the animal studies show that the interstitial fluid, which surrounds all the receptors on your cells, insulin receptors, thyroid receptors, becomes acidic before blood.
So what? That's the design.
So that's something.
Cells are more acidic than the blood. The blood is either more acidic or less acidic than the urine at any given time because the range in urine varies between 4 and 8, precisely in order to maintain the blood pH, James. It's part of the homeostatic mechanism. So what?
The key that I want you to think about throughout this video. But the clinical studies in humans giving acid-based diets versus alkaline-forming diets.
No such thing exists, James, still. It does not have a meaningful effect clinically on the pH of any of the body's fluid pools. Still, you are still labouring under the misapprehension that you have some science behind you here. You don't, son. Still.
Shows a highly statistically significant.
So what? Nothing to do with clinical significance whatsoever.
Difference in steady state proton concentration and bicarb concentration.
12 parts per billion, give or take, James, is what you're talking about here. Why aren't you giving us the absolute magnitude of it? Because you know damn well that that completely erodes the cornerstone of your argument. The problem that you are proposing to exist still doesn't, does it, James? No. For goodness sake, every time you exercise at high intensity, the pH of your blood will swing 10 times more than it does, according to your so-called problem here, with sulfur-containing amino acids. Why don't our kidneys explode every time we exercise, James? For goodness sake.
So to give you some numbers on average alkaline forming diets.
There are no alkaline forming diets, James. Still.
Can basically have a steady state pH of like 7.41, 7.42. Acid forming diets are more like 7.38, 7.37.
Right, there you go. 6/100ths of a pH unit. 12 parts per billion. Are we finished? Why are you not finished here, James? Why are you not done here? pH, homeostatic mechanisms of the human body are perfectly competent to deal with 1 or 2 sulfur-containing amino acids, James. For goodness sake, this is ridiculous.
And there are studies showing that actually measurements, more than one measurement, can go down even below 7.36.
Ooh, goodness. Shock horror. How much, James?
On an acid-forming diet.
No, there are no acid-forming diets still.
Technically, the normal range is 7.35 to 7.45.
So?
However, when you are on the lower
That's not true during exercise, is it, James? Whoops.
end of normal, your body is definitely much more acidic and likely
No, it isn't. It's 12 parts per fucking billion, James. Still.
of the normal range in the interstitial fluid because it's barely able to keep it normal in the blood, which has many better buffers than the interstitial fluid.
Absolute gut rot, James. Nonsense. The blood pH freely swings between 6.8 and 7.4, give or take. That is the normal operating range. There is no distress to the human body in being anywhere within that range at any time. Still.
Fluid. So keep that in mind as well. So, in other words, the clinical studies prove my point.
No, they don't, James. Just saying the clinical studies prove my point doesn't make that so. They do no such thing.
And we're talking about p-values of 0.002.
So fucking what? That has nothing whatever to do with clinical significance. Nothing at all. Still.
Highly statistically significant
So what?
differences in even blood pH.
So what?
Consuming an acid-forming diet
No, still.
versus a base-forming diet.
12 parts per billion either way, James. Still.
Now, here's the clincher.
Oh, the clincher. The clincher because you say so, James? Because we've seen nothing that would clinch anything here.
he made a positive claim. He made a positive claim that acid-base balance in regards to diet does not meaningfully harm a human.
Correct.
Number one, how would you even prove that?
How would you prove otherwise, James? Common sense is what's being applied here.
Not even been studies going out years or decades to prove your positive claim. So how would you...
Right, and there's nothing out there to prove the negative side either, James, so no points for you there either. That's not the clincher. Pathetic, desperate straw man and a misdirect.
Do you prove that, Bart?
I don't need to prove it, James. You need to prove your positive claim, and you haven't done it.
Okay, crickets. You're not going to be able to prove that.
I don't need to, James. You need to prove there's a problem. There isn't one. Still.
No one can. However, my basis is that there are potential harms. I've made this...
But so what, James? Humans have been eating a highly meat-based diet containing a lot of sulfur-containing amino acids, James, for about 4.5 million fucking years. It's normal part of human existence. You have not proved there's a problem or any reason to do anything different. What's your problem, other than Dunning-Kruger, a severe ego problem, and clearly quite a limited intellect?
It's very clear. And if you look at the human clinicals, how would you support your positive claim that there are no harms, Bart, of consuming a high acid forming diet?
I have suggested that you have not provided evidence that harms exist. What I have said is there isn't an apparent problem. There's no reason to look for a problem or to assert that a problem exists, other than to subserve your desire to have a publication record, James, making ridiculous claims that you can't support. It's your failing, son, not mine.
When numerous metabolic ward studies have shown that when you consume a high acid forming diet, it can put people into negative calcium balance.
False, James. You haven't shown cause and effect there, and you haven't shown any long-term health problems. Still, you have not made the connection that you would need to make to support your claim with enough robustitude for us to take it seriously. And your model is also based on a false understanding of the means by which and the mechanisms by which pH is controlled in the human body, so that it only allowably goes somewhere between the low end and the high end of the physiological range in a human being throughout the lifespan in health. It's not until the health fails catastrophically and the person is about to die in the next few minutes that the pH becomes meaningfully deranged. What's next?
It can insignificantly increase bone resorption markers.
Insignificantly. So it's not even statistically significant, is what you're saying there, James, let alone clinically.
Significantly decrease bone formation markers. How would you
Insignificantly, James. So we're not interested in that.
support your claim that that dietary acid load cannot affect the acid-base balance of the body to any meaningful way?
12 parts per billion, James. Still.
When we know that it can put people into negative calcium...
We don't know anything of the sort, James. You are making a cause and effect claim that you cannot support there. You want to put your studies up where you suggest that there's a cause and effect relationship there, and it will take me less than 2 minutes to pull those studies to bits, James, and you know that, I think. You cannot support the posit. Despite your huffery that you can. You can't.
balance, it significantly increases uric acid in the urine.
So what? That's the design. But you also need to understand, James, that removing something with a positive charge from the blood pool and putting it in the urine pool, that will acidify the blood. In fact, because of the law of electrode neutrality and how that works. You don't even understand that, let alone that you do not have cause and effect inference to support your ridiculous posit.
And it increases bone resorption markers.
False, 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 false. Cause and effect claim, again, James, not supportable.
And decreases bone formation markers.
False. Cause and effect claim, not supportable.
Please explain how you can state on a human living for an entire lifespan that consuming a high acid forming diet not offset by base has no meaningful harms.
Show me evidence that it does. You haven't done so. We're done. Easy, James. Straightforward. If you're that confident in yourself, why don't you bring your little studies to the table and have a discussion with me? And then maybe you'll earn your manhood back. And I'll tear your studies to bits within seconds. Get your ego under control, son.
Based on the clinical metabolic ward studies proving that...
No, son. No. No metabolic ward study proves a damn thing. Proof is the word you're using inappropriately there. It shows a real destitute of understanding of science, in fact.
to 1930 with Stephenson that it induces negative calcium balance.
It does no such thing. Induces is a cause and effect claim. There are no studies to support that claim in existence, James.
And that there is no positive balance even after about 4 months on these diets. You're still losing 175 milligrams every single day of calcium.
What's the intake of calcium in a given person?
Every single day.
No, James. I've been doing this over 10 years. Lots and lots of sulfur-containing amino acids. Lots of them. I haven't fallen in a heap on the floor because my bones have dissolved, James. Neither do I have a bone mineral density issue by any clinical measure of that. Neither are my bones breaking every time I try and do any kind of exercise. Absolutely false, James. Ridiculous, fundamentally wrong, unscientific claptrappery. Theology.
And after 120 days, essentially, please explain and justify your position.
Well, the only thing that's left to do now, James, is for you to front me face to face. Bring your studies where you think you are proving a cause and effect problem, and we'll talk about those. And I will once again eviscerate you and show you to be incompetent any day of the week or twice on Sundays.
You cannot. You cannot.
I don't need to. All I need to do is dismiss your claim, your positive claim, that a problem exists, cause and effect, because it doesn't.
So again, you came and attacked me.
Quite rightly, because you have it completely wrong in terms of how acid-base is even controlled, what the magnitude of the change is, and what the meaning of that is.
And you're essentially incorrect. You're strawman.
I'm not strawmanning you, and I'm not incorrect on anything I've had to say, James. It's you that's strawmanning me by claiming I've said things I haven't said. It's pathetic, it's desperate, and it's childlike.
Me by saying, well, it's dependent. So Stuart proves that it can't change the pH to any.
No. Stuart didn't say that, and I didn't say that. You said that. Stuart does not claim the pH can't change. False.
Meaningful way. Stuart's model cannot prove anything. It cannot.
Neither can your ridiculous pseudo-controlled, pseudo-randomized, pseudo-powered, pseudo-tenured studies, James. Your studies don't prove shit about fuck. Bring those to the table. Let's have a look at them.
Excreting 150.
I mean, because if you don't come and talk to me about your studies of your own accord, James, I can start on the process of making the videos, tearing your shit to bits, and you won't have the opportunity to defend yourself in that circumstance. I also have a much larger audience than you do, quite rightly, on YouTube. So actually, you're biting off way more than you can chew in that regard. It's going to be you that's going to end up looking the fool here, any day of the week.
50 to 250 milliequivalents of acid on a high acid forming diet has not
Really are a very, very boring childlike individual, aren't you?
been disproven to have no negative effects based on the Stuart model, which, by the way, you did not make it clear that that is a construct, which is your main argument against everyone else, that you can't use constructs to support a theory because it's based on epistemology, it's based on theology.
No, it's based on actual known principles, first principles, and basic physics, James. Still, it is constructed from known phenomena. It is absolutely unassailable from that standpoint. It has never been shown to be incorrect on any of its tenets in any way, shape, or form, and neither have you supplied evidence to support your positive claim that eating sulfur-containing amino acids without balancing bases will cause a problem, because it doesn't. Still. What's next?
It has not been proven experimentally, so you cannot use Stuart's...
Nothing has been proven experimentally. Not even your existence, James. Your existence is a construct. Wakey, wakey, smell the bakey.
model. And you never made it clear to your followers that Stuart's model is nothing but a theory.
Did you watch my video yesterday? I think you'll find I was absolutely clear on that point, James.
That it can't prove me incorrect, which you said I was incorrect.
You are incorrect, James. You said that eating a bunch of sulfur-containing amino acids without counterbalancing base will cause a problem. Cause and effect. Will drain you of calcium in some way, or will cause kidney stones, was another ridiculous claim you made, or any other deleterious health outcome of any kind. You have not supplied a scrap of cause and effect evidence that what you're saying is correct. That is my standpoint. That is correct. That is unassailable, and you are strawmanning me or attempting to.
So how are you proving me incorrect, Bart? Please.
Well, what part of basic physics underpinning the Stuart model is incorrect, James? We're still waiting for that, because you still don't even understand the thing. let alone have a blind hope in hell of actually understanding how to comprehend the thing and how it works. You're completely out of your depth here.
Please explain, because the Stewart model cannot do that.
If you want me to explain something to you, James, then have the courtesy of fronting up to me face to face and we'll have the discussion. Simple as that. In the meantime, given that you lack the testicular fortitude to do that, all we're left with is for me to reiterate, James, once again that you're in the wrong. You are making a positive claim about a health problem associated with eating amino acids, and you are wrong. There is no evidence to support your claim. Quite happy to litigate your proposed evidence any day of the week, as I've said. Let's do that. I wonder why you don't want to do that.
I think that's good enough for now.
That's the problem with you, James. That's exactly the problem. Good enough, that'll do. Blah, 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 finished. Absolutely destitute, James. Fail, total fail. F, repeat the class next semester.
Now, happy to, and I'm not going to live debate this guy because he's strawmanning me all day, but I'm happy.
No, because you know damn well that you have no hope whatsoever, James. And it's you that's doing the straw manning. That's why. You pathetic, desperate, cowardly little piece of shit. Front up.
Happy to keep putting out the clinical studies showing the potential harms.
Right, well then we'll just have to pull those to bits within 5 or 10 minutes for each one. Because that's easy, James. Absolutely any day of the week. Dead set easy. You're making the positive claim, you're dropping the strawman arguments, and it's you that's easily shown to be in the wrong here any day of the week.
Not to mention...
And you're a fucking coward.
Here's another good point.
Oh, here we go. A good point.
The studies looking at normal, healthy people, once they're 70, 80, 90, showing clinically significantly low based on the normal values of bicarbonate.
So who's to say the normal values of bicarbonate are ideal or what is clinically indicated?
To be below the normal value of bicarbonate.
So what?
Which is, the normal value is 22 to 30 milliequivalents per liter.
So what?
When you look at normal, healthy people, they are below 22. They have clinically significant low bicarb by the time they're 70.
Well, hang on, you just said they were healthy. So there's clearly a problem with your scale on what's normal and what's good, isn't there then, James?
So how can you say for sure that people aren't going clinically significantly low in bicarb?
Well, because there are any number of people that I can introduce you to personally, James, who have been eating almost nothing but meat and associated fat for multiple decades, who are healthy, vigorous, strong, robust, positive, and forward-moving individuals. Whoops.
We know that normal, healthy humans do, even with normal kidney function by the time.
Do you even know what a normal, healthy human being is, James? Clearly you don't, because health is not determined by blood results.
They're 70. Please explain that one to me as well.
Well, I would, James, if you had the testicular fortitude to front up, which you don't. And you're making a pathetic excuse claiming that I'm doing the straw manning when it's you that's doing the straw manning. There are no excuses not to front me, James. This is now a public debate and it behooves you to front up. I wonder why you don't want to, other than you know damn well what the outcome will be. You will get eviscerated by a superior intellect who understands science better than you do, despite what it says on your CV, James. That's why you don't want to do it. Apparently we're done. That was it. Well, James, another fail. Another complete fail. Absolutely pathetic. Join me next time when James will be wrong again. See you then.